So we'll move on to the next fight, and finally, I think that this is going to be a fight where it could be good to play right here. I think this could be a good play fight. We have Miles John versus Dan Argueta. Miles John is 13-2. He has cut bantamweight 135-pound division, 3-2 in his last five. He's 29 years old. He's fighting against Dan Argueta, the Determined. That's his nickname. He's coming off that kind of a premature stoppage against Ronnie Lawrence, where he was dominating. I think he was dominating like a pick'em or a dog or something. Like it was pretty good odds for Dan right there. He is also 30 years old. Same height. They actually have the same height, and then Dan has a 2-inch reach advantage. Odds for this fight, we have Dan as a minus 175 favorite, opened up as a pick'em. So he has been bet to a bigger favorite so far. Miles John, he has solid power. I think, he has potential KO power as well. Pretty strong guy. Um, he does have wrestling roots, but he doesn't really seem to get takedowns all that well. I mean, if you just look at his takedown percentage, it's not really looking too good there. He does have wrestling roots, but I don't really think he wants to use it either because he gets tired or whatever the reason is. I mean, we're talking about like a 19% takedown accuracy right there. That's not good. 0.86 takedowns every 15 minutes. So even with that wrestling pedigree, I mean, he doesn't look like he wants to wrestle. He does have a 90% takedown defense, but if you do look at his record, I mean, in terms of who he's fought, right? I don't think he's really fought really good wrestlers, in my opinion. And when he does fight someone like, let's say, a Mario Batista, who it does have some good wrestling and grappling, he took that L. He also lost to Sexy Mexi, who just kind of pieced him up on the feet. Um, I mean, for me, Dan Argueta, underrated wrestling and grappling. I think we saw that with the Ronnie Lawrence fight. Ronnie Lawrence was supposed to be this guy that had also that non-stop kind of pace and pressure. But to me, it looked like Dan was the one who actually had that non-stop pace and pressure. I mean, um, just to kind of let you guys know, I first watched Dan on when he had a short notice close loss to Damon Jackson, who, Damon Jackson, I think, is really legit, and Dan has improved a lot since then. And coming off his last fight against, Ronnie Lawrence, that should be a dub on his record. I mean, I think that Dan actually has a lot of momentum coming into this fight. I would play Dan as a parlay piece here. I'm going all in on Dan. I just don't see what Miles John has for Dan in terms of his relentless pace and grappling. What Miles John is going to do is he's going to try to knock Dan out. He's going to try to use that 92% takedown defense, but I think he's going to be surprised by the kind of pace and pressure that Dan puts out. We're talking about a 60% takedown accuracy. He's getting almost 3 takedowns per 15 minutes. And not only does when he takes people down, he tries to kind of dive through the legs or tries to trip you up on the judo jerk. He does 1.9 submissions every 15 minutes. So he's trying to go for the subs as well. I mean, I think that Dan's actually pretty underrated guy in this division, pretty dangerous. So I'm gonna go with Dan here to get that dub that he should have got from Ronnie Lawrence, and at a price of minus 175. You know, under a 2-1 favorite. Yeah, give me that all day. I'm going Dan. Alex, what do you think about this fight as far as Miles John and Dan here?
Damn. So I was watching Miles John's his fight against John Castaneda, and interesting thing that he said was, and you alluded to, James, was that he has a wrestling background. Um, in that fight, the commentator mentioned that he has a scholarship. He had a scholarship for wrestling. Um, so he he had a scholarship for wrestling, but he eventually like turned it away to like pursue MMA full time. Um, which I thought was pretty interesting because he's definitely going to need to kind of leverage that background in wrestling against Argueta because um, in Dan Argueta's last fight against Ronnie Lawrence, right from the get go, Argueta looked really aggressive. Shot for that takedown, was able to get Ronnie Lawrence down right away. But what I think is particularly interesting here is that Miles Johns has a very his body type is very compact. It's actually very similar to Dan Argueta's. And I think that's gonna be an important like kind of piece here because against Ronnie Lawrence, like he's just kind of like a lengthy guy. That type of like body type is kind of easy to take down. Whereas like a body type like Miles Johns, it's gonna be much harder. Um, Plus him having a wrestling background, it's gonna be I think it I think, the odds opening up as a pick'em kind of makes sense in my eyes. Um, but in terms of like picking a fighter, I don't know. I don't like that Miles Johns doesn't throw a lot of volume. But when he does strike, he does strike with a lot of power. So I think I'm just gonna pass on this fight in terms of lean. I would I would lean with the underdog Miles Johns here. So it's more of like a dog or pass situation for me. Um, so yeah.
Definitely. Gerard, what do you think about this fight here?
Miles Johns, he definitely has the power. I'm not sure if he'll have the wrestling advantage here because Dan, like you said, he keeps getting after it on the takedowns and the wrestling and the grappling. Um, what I worry about here is Miles John's size. I'm not sure if I've seen Daniel grapple with someone as compact and kind of a stocky frame like Miles John's here. Um, Daniel Argueta, he does look like he has the better gas tank, and he seems to be the more consistent fighter. Miles Johns, I think in his last fight, I think he said he didn't have a good camp, so I think he has like inconsistent camps. So we're not gonna see what we're not gonna know what type of Miles Johns we're gonna see. And I think in this fight, we know what we're gonna see from Daniel. I think he's always gonna be bringing it no matter what. And I do think Argueta, he probably has the better gas tank, in my opinion, just because of his pace. And Miles Johns, I think he doesn't have a he doesn't have technical, clean striking. He's like winding up, trying to get that knockout shot. And I think he's fallen in love with that, his power. He's fallen in love with his power. And I think that Argueta will be able to work with that because it's not as clean or technical striking. It's more just winding up. So yeah, I would lean Argueta here as well. Um I'm I'm leaning Argueta or pass here because I just don't know about Miles John's size and physicality if it'll be a detriment to Argueta's game.
All right, yeah. I mean, looks like we all have kind of different opinions on this fight. Obviously, I'm full send Dan Argueta. Gerard's kind of a mid kind of opinion on Argueta, and Alex is going to be kind of leaning towards the dog and Miles John. But that's what makes these fights kind of fun to break down because we all have different opinions. So let's see what happens on Saturday and see, kind of how it plays out.